The 2D era, everything was so nice and simple. We saw the golden days of Metroid and Castlevania, the start of the fighting game genre with Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and saw a glimpse of the future that gaming could be. The future wasn't genre specific either. This was for everything. The Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis were fighting each other in whichever way possible to see who could get the upper hand, even though their fiercest competition was barely in the console wars at this point. I'm talking about Sony, but they aren't really relevant for this topic. Sonic and Mario were the biggest icons when it came to video games. You asked any of your older relatives what characters they knew from video games, it was probably these two, or maybe Pac-Man, but then it finally happened. The hardware was able to do true 3D graphics, and Nintendo skyrocketed into first place with releasing Super Mario 64 in 1996. My god, it was fantastic. So what was Sega's response?
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Sonic Adventure was released in 1998. Their first attempt was actually Sonic 3D Blast for the Sega Genesis and Saturn in 1996, but that style of 3D isometric is not what we think of today when we think of 3D graphics. Alright, technicalities over, let's get back to the discussion. In the age of gaming now, sometimes it's nice to look back at our roots and what made us fall in love with gaming today. I started playing video games around the end of the Sega Genesis and the start of the Nintendo 64. One of my first games I remember playing was Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it still holds a special place in my heart. It isn't my favorite Sonic game, but it is the game that started my loyalty to the series. It still has one of my favorite soundtracks too. You guys should totally listen to Mystic Caves on music because it's one of my favorites. As a kid, those were the main characters I knew when it came to games. The games my parents got me was because the name Mario or Sonic was in it. With this history in mind, it seemed to be my destiny to play the 3D Sonic games, and just like that, the prophecy was fulfilled. I didn't own a Dreamcast, but Sonic Adventure DX was released for the GameCube. Looking back at it now, it definitely started off Sonic on the wrong foot when trying to compete with the Nintendo juggernaut. But what made it not as memorable as Super Mario 64? Sonic Adventure as a whole, I saw as having fantastic ideas, with falling a little flat on the execution. The story wasn't the worst I've ever seen in the game. It's the typical Sonic story with Dr. Robotnik or Dr. Eggman, depending on when your first Sonic game was, wanting to take over the world and Sonic trying to stop him. This time, he wants to use a creature called Chaos to do so, but he must first find and obtain all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Each emerald powers up Chaos slightly until he reaches his most powerful form, absorbing all of the 7 Chaos Emeralds, where he is quote-unquote unbeatable. Sonic is there to thwart his plan. Tails, Knuckles, and some other Sonic characters intermingle and slightly impact the story, but it truly is a Sonic vs. Eggman conflict at heart. It is a solid premise as a story to me, without bringing in too many new things to the table. Remember, the jump to the 3D era was a very risky one, so I call it a smart move on Sega's part here to not do anything crazy story-wise. Now, I'm not here to talk shit about this game. Personally, I like playing it, even if some of the reasons are tied to nostalgia. Let's dissect this game by its various modes now. You can play the game in 6, really 7, different modes or characters. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, E102 Gamma, and Big the Cat all have their stories intertwined throughout the game, with Super Sonic saved for the final showdown against Perfect Chaos. Without looking at the execution part of this game, this is a solid premise. Each of these characters has a role in the story, and is a good starting point for Sonic Team to go from. Sonic levels are what you'd expect from them to be. Fast, 3D platforming stages with an emphasis on speed. Tails had his stages tweaked from Sonic's as if he was the hero in the story, basically like Sonic's younger brother. Knuckles is still angsty as all hell, with his goal retrieving the pieces of the Master Emerald when Angel Island fell from the sky. Amy is still following Sonic, but this time she has a more active role, and is looking out for a bird that some strange robot keeps trying to steal, finally putting that massive hammer she carries around to use. E102 Gamma is their version of making the game into a shooter mixed with some platforming elements, and Big the Cat, well, we'll save him for a bit later. I will admit that this game is not objectively good. Sonic Adventure is a buggy mess with terrible mouth animations that never felt like competition to the amazing world of Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 was the new standard of what a 3D platformer should be. Just like how GoldenEye showed what a shooter should be, you expected Sega, the company that gave Nintendo a ride for their money, to set the standard of what a fast-paced action platformer should be. They did their best, I admit, but it wasn't enough to stop the future onslaught of memes the game would one day get. Now, Big the Cat. He's one of the reasons that this game gets the crap that it does. I just have to ask why they thought this was a good idea to put in a Sonic game. Sonic is known for being a fast platformer. Knuckles and Tails followed the same philosophy when you played their levels on the Genesis. Amy and Gamma also adopted that rationale, but why did Big the Cat not follow in their footsteps? Instead of designing his levels behind that, they instead focused on some terrible fishing thing, I barely even want to call it a mechanic, to make his levels. Don't get me wrong, I like fishing in games usually, but fishing in this game doesn't make any sense. In this game, where momentum and platforming is at the forefront, it just seems too out of place. It also doesn't help that his voice acting is garbage and his only motivation is following around a frog the entire time. I'm not saying that all character quests are winners, but they're easily 10 times better than what they thought of for Big the freaking Cat. I felt that Sega was just throwing a bunch of stuff at a wall to see what stuck, and this was something that definitely didn't. Let's go think positive thoughts now. So, I do this in almost every video, but can we talk about how awesome the music is? Now, I might be beating a dead horse here, but I honestly don't care. Sonic seems to find new ways to struggle at making a cohesive game. Until Sonic Mania, that is, but they have never struggled in the music department to me. The music for this game was primarily composed by, and I hope I don't butcher the pronunciations here, Jun Senuo, with additional music from Fumi Kutatami, Kinoichi Takoi, and Masaru Setsumaru, and they nailed it. One of my personal favorites is Casinopolis. I already like the idea for the stage, and it seems like an easy fit for Sonic games too. Sonic has always been focused on getting as many rings as possible, and making the stage with using rings in a different way was a cool thing to do for a 3D Sonic game. It's a low-key jazzy groove which loops in just the right way to me. Snowy Mountain is also a song that doesn't get the love that it should. It's an ambient piece of music that allows you to get lost in the melody. Pleasure Castle is another track that just kicks so much ass. Amy is still trying to protect her bird BFF, and this song starts off with a bang. You're sent from a freaking roller coaster into the stage. Come on, what's not to love? Then you go running around an amusement park, jumping on rooftops to find the highest room in the area. Everything about this level screams fun. The combination of the music and atmosphere easily makes it one of my favorite stages. They try to do a couple more serious themes than old Sonic games did, but they didn't lose the fun factor that's conveyed through the music. Another unique aspect of this game is the use of an overworld to go from stage to stage. Typically, Sonic has levels back to back in a linear nature, but now you can run around and explore a hub world, which includes 3 unique smaller areas. It doesn't seem like a big change in the present day, but I would say it was a good attempt at adapting the Sonic formula to 3D. There's a little bit of a puzzle on how to unlock the next area, but don't worry if you think you'll ever get stuck, because there's a floating red thingy that'll tell you exactly where to go. The main areas are Station Square, Mystic Ruins, and the Egg Carrier. Each of these areas has their own secrets you can explore, and it feels good to do so. While the word secrets might be an over-exaggeration, it will be enough if you want to have some time to run around and do whatever you want in between stages. Boss fights are another issue that I kind of want to cover here. Most 2D Sonic bosses are just Dr. Robotnik moving back and forth, finding out when you can finally jump on his head or machine. Sometimes you can also spin dash into them too. The same method of beating old school boss fights can be used here as well, with a little variety thrown in at the later ones. Your main fights are either against Chaos or some other playable characters in the game, but they made sure to include Unique One as the final boss in every character's story. Overall, I thought the variety was nice. It really was a Sonic boss fight in 3D. I do have to give a special shout out to the Perfect Chaos boss fight. Zooming around over water, hovering like Goku, and dodging all the blasts from the Blue Water Dragon Chaos, sign me up. All of this while opening your heart is playing too. This just might be my opinion, but this boss fight kicks so much ass that it makes up for all of the other unmemorable ones. Now let's just forget that the Big the Cat final boss is what it is. Lastly, I'll mention the Chow Garden. Yeah, the most universally loved part of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was in the previous game. Crazy, right? Sonic Adventure 2 perfected it. because there really isn't much to talk about here. There's a Chao Garden in every sub-area of the game, but it doesn't have the variety that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle's Chao Garden had. Sonic Adventure 2 had races, karate matches, school, planting trees, breathing fire, wearing things on their head, etc. This Chao Garden doesn't really have anything special when compared to the caliber of the successor, but hey, every good idea has to start somewhere, right? A lack of focus is where I feel this game suffers the most. As I said before, it seems like they were throwing a bunch of crap at the wall and saw what stuck instead of sticking to perfecting the Sonic part of the game. I love this style of 3D Sonic that was done in here, and Sonic Adventure 2. It is a style of 3D Sonic I wish that they would continue to make instead of the games like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Forces. While I do think these games deserve more credit than they usually get, it doesn't get me excited about the future 3D Sonic games that are getting developed. While Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 are not perfect in terms of controls, it still gives me the sensation of moving quickly while still maintaining control of my platforming. I hope this style of Sonic is revisited at some point, but I'll stay hopeful for the time being. This is Nick, signing off.